we have kind of a different philosophy about resume writing at the HBCU Career Center. So I said, let me do a session, let me touch on some of the drivers, and let me talk about how it is that we might want to make sure we're reflecting certain things inside of our resumes. So good evening, Morgan State, Bishop State. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello from Venezuela, Long Beach State. I went to Cal Poly Pomona, so I know Long Beach State. So let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen, and pardon me because a lot of times it doesn't go well. So where's my, no. Why can't I share my screen? Oh, because I need to push share. That's what it is. And let me get into my slide presentation. Let me go back to the beginning, and I'm gonna hit present. We're gonna get started. Can everybody see my slideshow? Just drop a message or just drop something in the chat if you can see that. Okay, awesome. Awesome, 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 awesome. Okay. As I said, we have a slightly different perspective on resume writing at the HBCU Career Center, and I wanted to kind of bring everybody back up to speed on that. You know, we write our resumes for all kinds of reasons, right? But the number one reason, a lot of people forget, yeah, it's you're gonna talk about your results, you're gonna brag about your experience, you're gonna tell your story, you're gonna show uniquely you. You're gonna demonstrate your mastery, you're gonna explain yourself in your resume. But the number one purpose is really about getting that call. I talk to a lot of people who think that resume writing is gonna get me a job. No, resume writing, the goal of the resume writing sessions that you do is all about getting a phone call. If you can get a phone call, if you can get an email, if you can get a text message, if you can get an opportunity to sit in front of a person, that really is the goal of your resume. And if your resume is doing that for you, then your resume is working for you. And so we're going to touch on a couple of things, just because at the HBCU Career Center, we like to be thinking about the future of work and understand where things are going and how, you know, the big environment is actually functioning, so we can always improve what we have. But keep in mind, the number one purpose of your resume is to get a phone call, get a text, get in front of a person, get in front of a panel, get in front even of a robotic tool or some kind of chatbot, some kind of artificial intelligence interview mechanism, something where you can bring more of yourself than just that piece of paper. So let's see here. I'm going to use that instead. I want you to keep in mind that we write our resumes every day with the way that we do our lives. If we don't do stuff, there's nothing to put in the resume. If you're not actively engaged, then your resume won't change. So our goal is to make sure that we're doing things so that we can talk about it. When I, worked on college campuses, I used to say, you write your resume every day, based on the classes you go to. If you don't show up to a class, you're probably not building the skill that you need. So we write our resumes every day, and I want you to keep that in mind as we move forward. The landscape that we're in right now, which is one of the reasons I really wanted to do this session, is you've probably all heard about, the Great Resignation. There are lots of people out there resigning, changing jobs, looking for new opportunities, looking for new places to, let me see here, isn't it possible? Captions. No, unfortunately, no captions, but we will send a presentation out later. But the Great Resignation is happening. People are changing jobs. We hear all the time, there are 11 million jobs open in the US, and we don't have enough people, but people are moving around. People are looking for that next opportunity. We learned a lot during COVID. We learned a lot about ourselves and our lives during the pandemic. So all of us are kind of looking for where next are we going to go, where we want to settle into. And we're probably going to keep popping until we find where we really want to settle into. AI is doing a lot of the screening that's out there right now. You know, people, with 11 million jobs, lots of people are looking for work. Recruiters are getting a lot of resumes. So we're increasingly using artificial intelligence technologies to actually screen, do that first pass of a resume. And job skills. Job skills are becoming the currency of the workplace. There is almost, we're not quite there yet, but there's almost this tendency now to say, does it really matter where you got the skills? Did you get them doing, you know, building your own small business? Did you get them doing some kind of gig assignment? Where you got the skills is not quite as important as whether or not you have the skills that someone is looking for. So this landscape is really presenting a lot of opportunities for people. There are new ways that people are looking at, you know, old barriers. People, you know, used to have recruiters who would say, well, you have to have a 3.0 GPA in school before you can get into our internship. No, that's really not working. Are you the person who can create that video of yourself, upload it, and get, you know, an interview with your resume? Absolutely. That's what we're looking for. That's what organizations are looking for. So a lot of the barriers that used to, you know, what major you took, what school you went to, that's changing a lot. It's really about how you're building those skills. So the 4 drivers right now that's really driving the employment job search space is hybrid remote work, transferable job skills. In other words, what do you have that we're looking for? How are you presenting it? Where did you get it? And you know, what can you use it to do? What's that ability that you have to convert that skill into something that's actionable, that will make you productive, that will help you help us? Your holistic business understanding. I used to say to students years ago when I worked on college campuses that it really doesn't matter what degree you get, you must take a class in the business program, because it is important for you to understand your business, your industry that you're in, and how your industry is changing if you want to position yourself to move forward. And your resume has to follow along. The more you do, the more you have to update. And we're finally going to cover what we call at the HBCU Career Center, the real visa, not the credit card. It's about your values, your interests, your skills, and your abilities. And we're going to talk about how it is that you showcase that on a resume and why it's important to do that. So the first driver that we're going to talk about is hybrid and remote work. Back in 1999, and I'm a boomer, and I don't make any excuses for that, you know. So I cover a lot of time. I was writing about telecommuting as a strategic human resources tool. And so I am fascinated and excited to see what we're able to do right now with hybrid and remote work. And so that's one of the big drivers right now that's driving the workforce. And so people are starting to, you know, ask questions like, how do I show that on my resume? How do I demonstrate that that is something that I'm open to? That is something I'm interested in. And in the chat, I want you to tell me about one way that remote work or hybrid work applies to you right now, because it applies to pretty much everybody. Either you're doing it, you're not doing it, you wish you could do it. It personalizes hours, right? You're a remote intern. Think about that. All the opportunities that open up nationally, internationally sometimes. You're a hybrid 2 to 3. Shaki says, teacher evaluations, Fridays work from home, fully remote worker, currently working overtime now at home while watching this. I mean, telehealth for therapy and how important that is. That's really a growing area. I mean, 100% remote online tutoring. Think about all the options that are open. And even with all these options, there's some people who don't want to do it. And we get that. We get that. So one of the things you want to do when you're, talking about that on your resume is to acknowledge that, yeah, remote work growth is huge. We've grown 44% over the last 5 years, and we've grown 160% over the last 12 years, and it's gonna continue to do remote. Some people did remote 2019 to 2021, and then back to the office, right? So when you're talking about hybrid and remote work, here are some of the things that you really want to highlight on your resume. And this is just a sample resume that just kicks off some of the very important areas of the resume. It's just there to kind of show you some of the things that the parts of your resume. And this is a one-page resume. And remember, we want to try to stick to one page, and it's hard, but we're going to talk about your other resumes at the end of our presentation. So even though that one page is hard, it's kind of the key areas that you really want to focus on. Education, expertise. You notice under this person's name, there is a title. They give themselves a header. They name, they name themselves as a professional. So what are some of the things that you want to highlight? You want to highlight time management. Any examples that you can give that demonstrates time management? For example, if you say I'm looking, or in my experience area, I say that I worked hybrid 3-2, and then talk about the outcomes as a result of that, what you might have increased in productivity. You're giving the recruiter who's looking at the resume, and ultimately eyeballs will be on your resume. Yes, there are screening tools that we're using up front, but eyeballs ultimately is what makes the ultimate final decision. So time management, you want to demonstrate communication skills. A lot of people think hybrid and remote work means you're kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's even more important that you demonstrate excellent communication skills on your resume. So whether you had to do virtual presentations, whether you had to communicate with disparate team members, you want to really infuse that communication skill into your hybrid or remote work resume. You want to demonstrate your effectiveness. You want to demonstrate the ability to do independent work, definitely want to show results. And you want to demonstrate that you have that, what I call tele-techno capable, capacity, where, I was talking to someone the other day who, is a boomer like me, and she's slightly older. And she said to me, my whole office went paperless, and I'm in Adobe and PDFs more than I've ever been. And, I'm just too old to learn that. But you know what? I'm learning it. I'm doing it. Absolutely. That's what it's about. So if you're interested in hybrid and remote work, you're going to have to showcase those things on your resume. And where on your resume should you put that stuff? What about in your summary of qualifications? What about in your the header, remote work, remote manager, experienced remote team leader? Give yourself a header. For those of you who follow me on social media know that I am the resolute inclusionist. That's my header. That's what I care about. Always about trying to screen people in, how it is that you help people get access and, become part of the solution and not get left out, not screened out. I'm about trying to screen people in. So find a header that depicts you as a remote worker who has been successful that way. Put it in your skills grid. How many years have you done it? Somebody said 2019 to 2021. That's 2 solid years. So even if you don't do it now and you're looking to do it in your next opportunity, find a way to put that in your skills grid. It should be all over your experience area and definitely in your education and training. And let me say something about education and training. A lot of people out there are getting all kinds of new tech training, but they're not doing the business training. There are sessions out there for how you can be a better remote worker, how you can be a better remote worker leader, remote supervisor. So when you're looking at education and training, anything that you've done recently, try to get that on your resume as well. Some of the things you want to watch for when you're talking about hybrid remote work on your resume, just be aware that You know, recruiters are looking for those people who were in one industry and are trying to change to another industry just because they want the remote work, but don't have the experience to back it up. What you have to do if you're changing, you know, or planning to change, you still have to demonstrate on your resume skills that are relevant to the role that you're going into. So it's important sometimes if you're looking for remote to look for, you know, jobs that are adjacent to what you do right now. You know, if you are, I was talking to someone yesterday who they've been working HR in banking. Well, maybe you can look at HR in an insurance company, in a State Farm or in an Aon or that kind of, you know, look at a fintech company, because you can make transitions that way into remote work, into other companies that are more culturally okay with remote work. Make sure you're selling relevance to the employer. It's going to be very rare that you have an employer, and I worked with an employer who posted it was an accounts payable position. And, you know, we were getting applications from Chicago, and they were trying to talk us into remote work. Well, yeah, you can remote work, but not in Chicago for this particular organization. They want you to be someplace relatively local. So you want to think about that. Am I open to hybrid local? Am I open to hybrid in another state where I'm willing to travel, you know, every other month and spend a week on a site? These are all the things that you have to be thinking about when you're putting that resume together and considering hybrid and remote work. And what are your tech standards? Like, you know, there are parts of Pennsylvania where if you're there, you cannot get a signal on your phone. So be mindful of what you have to do to enable the tech in whatever workspace you're going to be using. And you are, you know, think about being able to sell that on your resume when you're looking for remote work. But this is a big one that's driving the workplace right now. Everybody is asking about it. And I'm going to give you one little piece of advice as to what not to do. We were in a HR group yesterday having a conversation, and someone said, you know, well, as you guys know, I've been, you know, let go from my position, and so I'm looking for a new position. And a bunch of very generous HR professionals, you know, jumped in and said, hey, look at this, look at this. You know, I was saying we had a couple of things that were on the HBCU Career Center job board. And after all this advice came and all these resources came, the person came back and said, well, you know, I'm really looking for remote. Are any of those things remote that you just talked about? And it was like, you know, come on, tell us that up front. You know, tell us that up front so that people know that that is what you're thinking about, because you don't want to waste people's time. You don't want to waste your opportunities to get leads. So that's just about the remote work piece. The second driver, I talked a little bit about this, the skills. Skills, the new currency. What do you have? What can you do? You know, how can you do it for me? I kind of almost don't care where you got the skills. That creates some problems, but I want you to tell me about one new skill that you've developed since COVID. Just one new workplace skill that you've developed since COVID, because all of us have had to. You know, I wasn't Zooming the way I Zoom now before COVID. Video editing, absolutely. Supervisory skills. What else? Microsoft Office. We've had to go deeper into those tools. Microsoft Teams, supervision, Canva. We've had to change kind of how we supervise people. Google Drive, Slack. Awesome, 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 awesome. Zoom, Illustrator, Google Drive, Microsoft Teams, you know, Canva, SQL, lots of stuff. I was talking to a colleague of mine today who sent me a photo because she's actually sitting on a beachfront in Hawaii, and she's in HR. And she said the IT folks came to her department in HR and said, we need somebody, we can't find anybody, we need somebody who's willing to learn how to code. She raised her hand. So now she's sitting on a beach in Hawaii writing code for her HR department. You know, yeah, we've all had to pick up new skills, Adobe Illustrator. And a lot of what you're talking about there in the chat is speaking to what I said about communications. That is key now that we're working in a remote environment. So any of those tools that you have listed here would demonstrate, it would fit in multiple parts of your resume. You know, you might have become an Adobe expert, an Adobe Illustrator expert. That could be your new header. You know, it could be something that's in your skills area. It could be something that's in your, you know, a description of what you actually did. How did you use the tool? Why did you need the tool? That's speaking to me about your business holistic understanding. Why did you have to learn this tool? Social media certifications, these are all critical communication tools that have become, you know, really, really important as we have gone through the last 2 years. And they're awesome things to highlight on your resume. This is a quote from KPMG that I wanted to share because there are a lot of data and tech, you know, analysts, folks out there who are developing websites and tools like Degreed or Simply Get Results. These are all tools that you can look up because companies now are inventorying the skills that they have inside of the organization. You know, when COVID happened and companies needed to find ways to continue, leadership was coming from everywhere. People were jumping in. People were bringing ideas to work. People who were never asked for ideas before were bringing ideas to work. So with technology tools like machine learning, we're learning how to collect that data so that organizations are saying, this is a profile of my organizations and the skills that are there. And, you know, you can do those word clouds, you know, like Workday has a skills cloud. SAP has a skills cloud that will say, oh, you know, 45% of the folks in our organizations have this particular skill. You know, only 10% have this skill, and that's the one that we really need to recruit for. That's the one that we really need to hire for. So skills are going to be super, super important. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this slide, but I know that anybody who's in our session is going to get a copy of the presentation. And I want you to spend some time on this slide because McKinsey is a company that does a lot of research on where work is actually going and kind of how things are changing, how we're bringing automation into certain positions. And this slide is actually showing you on a score of 1 to 100, how important physical proximity is in a particular industry. What this means for you, for example, is if you work in medical care, someone shared earlier that they did telehealth for mental health support. If you're working in medical care, you have to be investigating what part of it is going to allow me to do remote work. Because if you see, it has a score of 87, which means that it's very high on the person-to-person contact. But let's say you're a CRNP who wants to get into coaching wellness to employees inside of organizations, and you want to go work for a business that does that, you'll see that classroom and training, there is a more distance. So there's more opportunity for you to be remote, the lower, you know, the score might be here. Now, there is a point where the score gets so low where it's that humans are being replaced by automation, like in transportation of goods, like in outdoor production and maintenance. There's a distinct possibility that you don't want to go too low. So, but spend some time on this slide and see what you can glean out of that relevant to your career and how it might help you, you know, moving forward. Like one of my former colleagues and close buddies is in the audience. And, you know, Kyle, I'm going to use Kyle as an example because Kyle is a women's basketball coach. And so Kyle and I work together at Cheney University. There is always going to be a need for a Kyle on a basketball court, up close and personal, you know, unless it's what he's doing with his own company, Bigger Than the Ball, where he's doing training and facilitating and that kind of thing. And so what you put on that resume is really going to be a reflection of where you want to go, what you want to emphasize, what you want to show off, what do you want to showcase. This slide I put up here for you because even though it's talking about students, I always remind people that if employers are looking for something from college graduates right now, it's because that's where the employer is going. And so even if you're not a new college graduate self, you want to be aware of what are they expecting from people that are just coming out of school right now. And you know, right now we're at the point where whether you're just coming out of school or you've been out of school for, 20, 25 years, it kind of doesn't matter. We all are struggling with the same things in the job search at the same time. So this one was saying that 86% of employers who are responding to NACE's annual job outlook survey, are saying that problem-solving skills is what they want to see evidence of. So you always have to be thinking, how am I going to demonstrate evidence of what it is that I know, what it is I can do on my resume so that someone will see it and get a sense of who I am. And I say to people all the time, and if you hear that noise, it's just the rain, you may reject my resume, but it will be unambiguous to you about who I am when you read my resume. So absolutely, there will be a recording that you can get of this session. So when you're talking about skills, what do you want to highlight? You want to highlight and show off whether it's an essential skill or a technical skill. Technical skill doesn't necessarily, it's not about computers necessarily. It's about that you understand the fundamental mechanics of the profession. For example, if I were using human resources as the example, do you know how to hire a person? Do you know how to do a wage classification? These are all technical, very specific skills that are part of the profession. Essential skills would be, for example, communication. Yes, that's going to have to be important when you're doing HR. Writing skills, that's going to have to be important. Working with legal, that's going to have to be important. So, if you're transitioning from your focus, for example, if you're transitioning from HR into something else, you might want to minimize the technical HR skills, but talk about more of your essential skills, the communication, the writing, the public speaking. That's going to help you move over into something else. And again, where can you put those things on your resume? You can put them in the skills grid, put them in your summary, in education, training, put them in your header. You'll see a lot of software people, a lot of technology people will say, Python developer, web developer, web designer. They put their technical skills right in their header. HR chief people officer. These are headers that people develop to demonstrate those skills that they have that they're bringing with them. Some of the things you want to watch for, don't overstate your skills. I believe that all of us have stuff to offer. So if you don't have it, build it, but don't overstate it. Don't make it up. Are your skills brand new? Are they used? Meaning, yeah, I took this class on WordPress or, some other kind of web development tool, or social media tool, but what did I use it to do? If you can demonstrate the use of the skill, that's even better. Most definitely, you want to talk about relevance. And you want to stick to quality over quantity. I've seen resumes where a person might have had 3 really strong skills, but those are reflected in the header, it's reflected in the summary, it's in their education, it's in every line that they've put together in their experience, because they are focused on the quality of the skills. Question is, what's a good number of those to have? I don't know, I always think about a 9-box, that's just the HR in me, a 3x3 grid. And so, you know, if you remember that people read left to right, you kind of put your most important skills in that left 3 right there. And, you know, so it really depends on what you're going for. If you can use the skills box to show 9 different skills, if you can, in your summary at the very top, you can have 4 bullets that demonstrate 4 other awesome things about you. If in the education, you're adding more data points that are relevant, and then in the experience section, you're adding maybe 3 different positions with, you know, 3 bullets each, you know, you're up to 20 opportunities to kind of tell a picture, you know, really create a picture of who you are. So I usually try to stay to the 3x3 grid. 3x4, if you're coming out of college and you don't have a whole lot of maybe explanations on each of those skills, you might be able to put more skills there, but don't waste time and space on that. I'd rather see you put 6 things on there. You know, like I don't have to talk about my accounting skills in my skills grid if I talked about it, you know, on the very first line of my summary of who I am. So that's something that you can play with. Yeah, so focus on quality over quantity. You know, try to make everything that you put in there be another boom, boom, boom. Just keep adding to, this is really building this person into what it is that I'm actually looking for. And don't make the assumption of listing skills that if I list this, and I've seen this a lot, where I'm going to list this Python skill because I know I can get a lot of money for this skill, but you can't really use the skill. You know, recruiters see through that like right away. It's like, oh, they're putting all their moneymaker skills right here, but when I look for the supporting evidence, I don't see any. Okay, this person's asking, Lithira is asking, I've done a lot of freelance work where I ended up having a business that I is classified as a sole. You absolutely can put your business on your resume. You know, you'll see it at the very end. It's one of the things that I talk about, Lithira. So the other driver, holistic business understanding, and you set that up right there. This is so important right now. People want to understand, recruiters want to understand that you know why you do what you do and how it fits into your organization. Tell me one thing that you learned recently about how your business operates, how your company operates, how your company makes money. One big thing that might have changed revenues during COVID. You have to be able to demonstrate that, no matter if you work for a nonprofit, if you work in government, if you work in higher education, you have to know the driver. In higher ed, those drivers are going to be, you know, enrollment. That's the driver. The more people we bring in, enrollment and grants. So when I read your resume, I need to see that you understand that. E-commerce, a lot of companies had to add an e-commerce component. You know, like my Giant supermarket, my Acme supermarket, they had to add that side to their business because of COVID. I'll come back to that question. A lot of press releases. Now that's a way to use your skills, you know. That gives you a real sense of what a business is about. You understand what they're trying to promote about themselves. So, and the fact that you did it on Fiverr, more awesome, you know. Agencies subject to legislative approvals and appropriations. Absolutely, you have to know those things. I can tell you I've been in interviews with folks who really didn't understand how their role fit into an organization. That is super important right now, no matter what the role, whether you are that telehealth person, you have to understand how you work with a client, what that means for your company in terms of revenue and maintaining that relationship with an employer if you're doing it for an employer. work for an association that works with attorneys and government agencies. We were able to, we were able to update all of our online policies, be able to handle processes that we normally did by hand online. You're telling me about your remote, hybrid skills development, business understanding, all of that just came in that one statement that you just made. And that's really a very, very good example. Partnerships and data we gather impact so many more aspects of government and daily life than you could fathom. Absolutely, absolutely. The more you understand that, and it's for a selfish reason also, in that you can definitely sell yourself better, but you also get to be constantly doing environmental scans. You know where your organization is going. You know where they're pouring money into the organization. You know what skills you need to build. Not every organization is going to be like AT&T that's going to say, you know what, in 10 years, these are the skills that we're going to want. There are all these ways that you can build these skills in this organization. These are the skills that we will not want. So unless you're close to retirement, and even if you are, you may want to be focused on, oh, wait a minute, my skills are on that board. They're going to not need me anymore. I better be over here taking advantage of all of the training that they're offering. So you found yourself doing advocacy communication. Huge, 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 huge. Great examples, great examples. It's important that you understand the why, what, when, which, how, who, what is happening inside of your business, inside of your organization. And that makes you much better, because we live in a time right now where there is so much information out there. When the employers say they're looking for problem-solving skills from new grads, it's because they want people who can filter all of that information and pull in what's relevant for them. So understanding the business, knowing, I tell HR folks all the time who I talk to, you got to know from the boardroom to the factory floor, you have to know that what works there, what works here, you have to fully understand that business. And that makes you able to, go out and sell yourself. And it also helps you know what you don't like to do, what you don't want to do. So when you're creating your next resume, it's like, I'm not going to include that because I do not like doing benefits, for example, on the HR side. So you get to talk about what to highlight. What is your role in the business goals? Be able to do simple analysis like a PESTEL analysis, which is, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Google it and you'll see how you can do it for your company, and how important it is that you do that for yourself. So you know where things are going. You know what skills you need to be building. Where on the resume you're going to show off that business skills? Very much the same way many of you just did in the chat. You're going to talk about, dollars, percentages, changes, numbers. You're going to talk about innovations, new ideas that you had. You're going to talk about your domain knowledge. You're going to know that, yes, you work in healthcare, but healthcare is what part of the US economy? You're going to demonstrate it in education and training. Did you do Six Sigma? Doesn't matter what industry you're in. You're going to put it in your skills. You're going to show it by membership. Are you a member of a chamber of commerce? Are you a member of, the business committee of the Society for HR Managers? That's going to be giving me a really strong sense of your holistic business understanding. And what you want to watch for? You want to watch for using staffing firms. And I think, headhunters and recruiters, they do a great job for a lot of people. But one of the things they do is they will just farm your resume out to 10, 15 different places. And they're putting the same resume out there, and you're not equally qualified for everything. So when you're working with a staffing firm, you want to be able to say to them, I'm really only interested in these 3 kinds of companies. And so I'm going to give you 3 different resumes that you can use. Try not to put your resume on blast because it's kind of the same thing. And, you can't keep putting resumes out there that don't show anything new. If you've started a business, you'll learn a lot. You have expanded your holistic business understanding. And there was a time when you couldn't, employers didn't want to know that you were an entrepreneur. Not anymore. They want to know. And so the fourth driver, and this is the part that we've been talking about for years, and we are thrilled to see that people are actually taking this to heart. We call it the real visa, like I said. It's about your values, your interests, your skills, and your abilities. And when I read a resume, I want to see these things coming through on your resume. I was working with, I don't do professional resume writing anymore. I refer folks to Top Resume that our job board is collaborated with. But, she wrote this she was an attorney, wrote a really great resume, and left out the fact that she was a mega hiker. Hiker, meaning like she hikes like the Grand Canyon. She does these huge hikes that she coordinates globally. And I'm like, why don't you think that that's something that an employer would want to know about you? We're living in a time where it's okay, and it's increasingly okay, and workers are forcing this, that we can bring our full selves to work. So you don't have to hide things about you, that it's, I get it where it's like, yeah, that's my work, I don't want it involved here. But know that a recruiter who sees that, it will be a data point that they will say. It may come down to, I have these two candidates, they're both attorneys, they're both intellectual property attorneys, but you know what? This one is a hiker. Look at the stuff she's interested in. Yeah, I want to have a conversation with this person. Now, why didn't I meet you 13 years ago when I graduated from HBCU? Oh my gosh, that's a really nice compliment. Even yoga, let me tell you about that. I know a faculty professor right now at a university who, when she teaches in the summer, every faculty member is they clean out a classroom and they do yoga at the beginning of the day. That would make her more interesting, absolutely, than somebody else who just wants to come in and talk business. So here's the thing. Employers tell us all the time what values they're looking for. They love to go out there and say, oh, we're looking for strong work ethic. We're looking for dependable, responsible. We're looking for people possessing a positive attitude. They don't tell you that you can go there with your positive attitude and you get to the door and it's like, oh my gosh, it's the company that may be pulling you down. Oh, somebody says they did not think they could include yoga into this professional space. Absolutely, you can. That to me demonstrates dedication, practice, willingness to learn, a calm thinking person. That's what we want in our spaces. Someone who's going to elevate wellness in the space. So yeah, employers love to tell us what they want. I have a friend who writes for The Balance, and this is her list. She surveys employers all the time, and yeah, they want people who are motivated to grow and learn and show strong self-confidence. Well, how about one of the things that I value is that you live what you say as a company. That's what I value. And so you're going to see that when you look at my resume. What about what you look for? What about what we look for when we're looking for work? As I said, you may reject my resume, but it will be unambiguous about who I am when you read it. And if we were all in the same space, I'd have you saying that with me by the time we ended this presentation, because it's important for you to start thinking about what you want out of the job, what you want out of a career, what you want out of this employment relationship. A lot of people learned that with COVID, where COVID happened and companies were just saying, goodbye to people left, right, and center. And people are like, okay, and now you want me back because you need me. Guess what? I'm going to start making some of the choices about where I go and what I do. So personal thing that is important to you Like, I said, I'm the resolute inclusionist. That's a value for me. I look to work with organizations who live their mission, who say, this is what we want, and everything in their organization says that. Tell me about one value that you have that you never showcase on your resume because you think, you can't say that. I can't put that out in a professional space. I can't talk about yoga. Nobody? Political views, of course. Now, I'm not sure about political views, but would I say current affairs, religion, loyalty, you value trust and integrity, cooking and food presentation. Can I tell you a story about that? My first job as a young professional, I was an air traffic controller for 4 years. And in my air traffic controller interview, I was being interviewed by 7 people. And one of the things that I had to be talking about was a meal. I had to be having a conversation with one person about preparing a meal and what's involved in preparing the meal. And with another person, I had to be talking about a book that I have read. And so I'm having 7 conversations at the same time. Now, that speaks to my ability to multitask. So that might be what shows up in my resume, is the ability to multitask. But I'm speaking to a value that I have, or something that I have interest in. Podcasting, social justice, wedding and event planning. Those are all huge opportunities. Diversity and inclusion. So I came up with this list. And on the left were the things that I came up with. Me, the boomer in me, change making, equity, inclusion, environmental sustainability, self-care, mental health awareness, violence prevention, women's health, religious freedom, body equity, lifelong learning community. And then I asked my millennial, to come up with the stuff that's important to them. And it's independence versus collaboration, innovation versus tradition, community-driven versus cutthroat capitalism, flexibility, and freedom, life-work balance. You notice it's not even work-life, it's life-work. Professional musician. That tells me you are, I won't say it because people don't realize that, the 2 majors that do the best in law school, 3 majors, math majors, philosophy majors, music majors. It says so much about who you are. Practice, diligence, committed. These are all the behaviors that you can demonstrate. Instead of listing 9 skills, just tell me that, I'm a professional musician. It says it all. Empathy, excellence, curiosity, service, transparency. Now imagine being a millennial and you're putting together a resume and you say you're looking for an organization where transparency is important. Again, they may reject your resume, but it will be unambiguous about who you are when you send it in. So I want to see those values, interests, skills, and abilities all over the resume. And don't forget, where on your resume you put it everywhere. The things that you want to watch for are those I statements. You don't want to necessarily say, I am a professional musician. You kind of write in the 3rd person, so you still keep that there. Mental health, that's huge. That's huge. Inside of organizations where they have employee resource groups, where people cluster around things that they believe in and that they enjoy and that they appreciate, that's where you go and bring your whole self to work. And another thing you want to watch for is alignment. My belief, and this is what we have shared at the HBCU Career Center forever, is that our goal is that once we understand what our values, our interests, our skills, and our abilities are, every experience we're going into, we're really looking for alignment. And we're looking for better and better and better alignment. And what's important among those 4 things might change as you go through your life. And so you're always looking for that opportunity to, how will I match up inside of this organization? And on your resume, showcase it on your resume, because those things say a lot about who you are. In terms of just the latest do's and don'ts, now that we're in a post-COVID environment, it's no longer a shame to have a gap in your employment. You know, for years, we would sideline people because they had gaps in their employment. And this is what I mean when I say they're, you know, we're dispensing with some of these barriers. They were ridiculous in the first place. You know, so show your gap. And sometimes in those gaps, you're actually doing very meaningful work. You know, you could be on a PTA, you know, you could be a volunteer. Use those things. Show the changes. You may be moving from one thing to the next. It's okay to show that. You know, are you freelancing? Are you gigging? You know, did you start an organization? Show those things on your resume. Read the job announcements very, very carefully. Read them not just when you're looking for a job, but when you want to know where your job is going and how your job is morphing and how your career is morphing. And one of the new skills that they're asking, you know, if you read HR job descriptions right now, you'll see a lot of, everybody's using the word agility. Everybody's using the word, you know, self-care. Everybody's using, you know, wellness. How am I going to infuse those things into my work and on my resume? Include your pronouns. That's where we are. Don't blast your resume everywhere. Don't hit up everybody. You know, be strategic. You know, don't not follow up. Don't chase everything. You know, and I also say don't be selfish. Be willing to share. But I'll caveat that by saying be selfish when you're looking for that place for you. That's going to be the right fit for you. You know these people who love their jobs, they'll lay down on a bus, you know, lay down in front of a bus for the place they work for. That's because of how the company makes them feel when they're there. So that's what you're looking for. And don't think that anything you want is off limit. We're in 2022. We have survived a pandemic. This, you know, the sky's the limit. Go for what you think you want to go for. And if you're not there right now, start thinking about how it is that I'm going to, yeah, I have gaps. I love that. That's a word, you're right. Start thinking about, you know, what is it that I want for my next opportunity and how am I preparing for it right now? How did I get back here? I don't know, but let me just hurriedly move forward. These are the do's and don'ts. And I talked briefly at the very beginning about your other resumes. And this is why it's such a, it's kind of, a, you know, I say to people all the time, why are you trying to force me into this one stiff page? And then you allow me to go on LinkedIn and write pages and pages about who I really am. Recruiters are going to, yes, negotiate hard for what you want. Recruiters, the minute they get that piece of paper, you get their attention, they're going to your other resume. And your other resume is LinkedIn or Google, where they get to see you in your full glory. They get to see things that you've done. You can Google me and you'll find articles I wrote back in, you know, 2001. And then I see people using the ideas today and I'm like, oh yeah, I wrote about that in 2001 when you were trying to force everybody into, you know, look the same way and be the same way in the workplace. So that piece of paper that you're using as that one-page resume, don't forget that you have these other two things that can really help to round out who you are. So on your resume, add a website that's going to take them to your LinkedIn page. You know, add your Instagram page if there's some, if it speaks to who you are and there's not a whole lot of, you know, cussing, we'll still say that, you know, certain kinds of content on your IG pages, you know, you don't want to put it in a professional realm. And recruiters will never tell you that they're looking at it, but you know they do. I always have to remind recruiters, please don't tell me anything that you saw on the, you know, that you saw on any social media site beyond LinkedIn. But put your full self out there. And when you think about your resume, think about it that way. Am I showing my full breadth? And again, if I show you my full breadth and I show you why I'm the person for this, you may reject my resume, but it will be unambiguous about who I am when you read it. What is this person saying? What is it they're saying? Yeah, my Instagram page, I started to archive my things, start posting things that I foresee myself doing as far as career-wise. Awesome. Awesome. That's the plan. That's the plan. Use these tools. They're out there. And we know people are looking at them. So that's cool about, that's what's cool about being a professional in 2022. And yeah, you're probably going to go into a resume workshop where they're going to say, you know, line this up this way and, you know, line this up this way and tell you all the things that are going to screen you out. And I'm telling you as a, you know, somebody who hires people about all the things that are going to screen you in. And you may have to be more targeted. You may have to go after specific organizations, specific positions. And, you know, I know people who they get every job they go after because they do such a good job of, that's for me. I am going to find a way to get there. That's important. So don't forget to use our job board. You know, we give free resume feedback. We work with a company called Top Resume. You get the feedback, you know, and you don't have to use all the feedback, but one of the cool parts about that feedback is it will give your resume a score as to how it works with electronic screening tools that are out there. So that's an important part of it. Every month we give away things at the HBCU Career Center. This month, you know, people who put their resumes up on our job board, we're giving away 3 books. Let me see here. Can you see it? One is Career Rehab. If you do not follow Kanika Tolliver on you know, Twitter or LinkedIn, you should, because she is awesome. She works for the federal government, but she runs a lot of Twitter chats about career development. Her whole concept is about how you date your job. You know, don't be falling in love with every job you get. What color is your parachute? 2022 edition, and our resume guide. It was written before COVID. We're working on an upgrade, but we're giving away 10 sets. In other words, this is 1 set and we give away 10 of them this month. So we'll send this presentation out to everybody who was here this evening. Feel free to share it with, you know, with other people. I think it's important information, and, you know, we just want to make sure we keep putting things out there for people to use that's meaningful, and really try to make sure people understand how they're thinking on the industry side, how things are changing. A question: is it a good idea to have a separate professional Instagram that you put on your resume? You can, that makes sense. Like I have a, you know, we have a resume, we have an Instagram page for the HBCU Career Center. And then I have one that's Marcia F. Robinson, you know, where, you know, I'll put pictures of the beach and flowers and garden and that kind of thing. And, you know, I bill myself as an HR truth teller. So I'll tell people things that HR doesn't want you to know. And then there's the HBCU Career Center, where, you know, young folks have talked me into doing reels and videos where I'm pointing. That's not my thing, but they do a good job handling that for the HBCU Career Center. So yeah, you know, why not? Why not? Is paying $500 too much for a resume to revamp? I've been seeing high prices on TikTok. But are they talking about a TikTok resume? Because that's out there now, where you can actually do a TikTok resume. You know, I stopped charging people to write resumes like 10, 12 years ago, because I felt that people needed to understand how to do their resumes themselves. And one of the key things with professional resume writers is oftentimes they don't use your voice. I would see resumes that were professionally done, and I'm like, let's have a conversation because you don't speak like this. This is not you. Don't put words on your resume that you don't use in your professional everyday conversation. So it's hard for me to say, don't pay $500. It really is hard for me to say that because clearly somebody's out there. But there are articles on our site about how to find a professional resume writer, have conversations with them, ask them to show you samples, ask them if they have people who they've worked with before. Do they specialize in your industry? Industries are changing so much right now that, ask if they specialize in your industry. Do they do rewrites? What happens if you're not satisfied with it? But there's so many templates and samples out there also. Yeah, Julia just said she got a free template off TikTok. You can get free templates from Glassdoor. You can get free templates. We have some templates on our site, but they're really for, fresh coming out of college, and we probably need to have those upgraded. But the Muse, Balance, these are places that you can get good resume templates. And don't use the templates that are in Microsoft because you've spent so much time trying to edit them and fit things into them. But get a template, one that you like the way it looks, and go for it. I provide writing and coaching on the side in addition to therapy. My first degree is English. Try to be very mindful and share the person's voice. Thank you for saying that, Brianna, because when I would do a lot of hiring, and I'd see a resume and I'd call, and the person on the phone, it's like, that is not this person, and so I got very cagey about that. But can a professional writer help you synthesize your thoughts and help you focus, help you understand what to leave out, what not to leave out? Because don't forget, the best preparation for interviews is actually that thorough resume process, So yeah, I see someone saying, I've gotten burned out of $400 from a resume writing group who copied and pasted the same template and counted. Yeah, that happens. And they're books. They're actually, the What Color Is Your Parachute has good sample resumes in there. Is it okay to join this community if you're not an HBCU right now? HBCUs, this is something I have to tell people all the time. HBCUs have never said no to anyone who wanted to attend, to participate in programming. We're the same way at the HBCU Career Center. I spent 12 years working at Cheney University, the original CU, and we learned that, we talked about that. We have never said no. So absolutely, we reach out, we share, we participate, we do free workshops like this. There is no requirement that and the HBCU community, I have to say this to folks, is full of people who did not attend HBCUs, who didn't work at HBCUs, but they understand the value of the institutions. They understand the role and the legacy of the institution in building a diverse workforce, not only in the United States, but globally. So HBCUs have a lot of supporters that are not HBCU students. We've done work with all kinds of organizations. And of course, we put HBCU community in front of people all the time, but we participate in all kinds of things. Someone said they got burned with resume. Good to know, good to know. Oh, so this is for anyone to learn from then? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm serious when I say that I am a resolute inclusionist. I remember someone saying to me one time, why do you care so much about HBCUs? You didn't get your degree at HBCU. And I'm like, I could have gotten 3 degrees because I worked at one for 12 years, but not only that. I also give to the animal shelter, but I don't have a pet. people give to things that they believe in. You know, I want there to be a cure for cancer, but I don't have cancer. So I believe in the institutions. I believe in the value and the role of these schools, the power of these institutions to change lives and change communities. So yes, it's for anyone who wants access to it. Yes, and tons of non-traditional undergrad students, PWI grads seeking HBCU grad degrees, second degree. Absolutely love our HBCUs. Yes, 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 yes. How long does it take to get? I think it's like up to 48 hours that you get. Could you speak in our career cafe in Calgary? Oh, of course, let's talk. Hazel, find me on LinkedIn and send me a message. Yes, the tool that I'll probably share the most is your visa, my visa tool. So, wow, there's still 85 people here. We could talk forever. But let's see, what time is it? 8:12. Any other questions? Yes, please, please, please. Yes, find me on LinkedIn. It's real easy. LinkedIn.com/IN/Marcia F. Robinson. So you're welcome, Shelby. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And stay hydrated, people. Take care, take care. What is the name of did someone ask about the name of the writer? The writer you said, oh, Kanika. Kanika, what am I saying? Kanika. Kanika, it's Kanika, Tolver, Tolver. And she's just straight up awesome. She did a presentation for us back in, I think it was December, for folks who wanted to go into working in the government because she's an IT professional in the government. But, you know, she's an example of somebody who is fully engaged professionally in a full-time job, but has a business, you know, and she's not shy about, you know, putting herself out there. So glad you found a little bit of inspiration. You are welcome, you are welcome, you are welcome. Adding and following me, yes, looking forward to it. So we'll keep talking and I'll keep bringing information about, you know, what's happening, what's changing, and why it is we need to be at the table as the economy changes so that we can be a part of this whole redesign of the workplace. So take care. Good to see you. Let me stop sharing and